Oh, hello guys, welcome back. I've noticed a lot of people lately seem surprised that I would have anything nice to say about Jesus or about God. Well, that's because I've worked with them to the point where we've gotten past me connecting them to the church, so that helps muchly. Also, an experience I had today would help explain this. That game you all know I've been playing, I went back in and you could start from scratch. You had to take one of so many templates, but you could start from scratch. So I got a woodland area. And I decided, oh, there's a Ferris wheel. Threw one of those in. There's a bouncy house. Threw one of those in. Start throwing all this stuff in. Perfect time to add humans, right? No, I added foxes. And I would say foxes ride the Ferris wheel. Only a couple felt like doing it. In fact, only one fox would ride the Ferris wheel at a time. And since the foxes hop up and down, the Ferris wheel was jumping up and down and jumping all over the map. I would say, foxes, use bouncy house. Only two went over. And they would like bounce and bounce and bounce. I gave them a trampoline. I gave them scooters to drive. I gave them golf cart to drive. And one or two would obey me, but most wouldn't. They were doing their own thing. So, I kept adding all this stuff for my foxes, and one or two would enjoy it, but usually, even though they tried to obey, the main thing they were doing was throwing themselves at the treehouse, and it was hilarious. They would be at the entire other end of the map, and they would just throw themselves through the sky, and they would try to land in the treehouse, which they can't. I should have removed it, but it was highly entertaining. I might be a benevolent god, but I like to be amused as well. And they didn't seem any the worse for wear. They'd hit the treehouse, smack off of it, spin through the air, and fall on their side, and then they'd jump up and they'd be right as rain and be running around the map going, yeah, and they were just fine. So I let them go. And they were just fine. Even if the one hopping the Ferris wheel around the map stomped another fox flat, they'd be fine. They just get up and they run. Had a fox piloting a kayak all over the place. They were having great fun. But the thing is, each fox knew best what was good for that fox. The kayak fox wanted nothing to do with the Ferris wheel. Ferris wheel fox didn't want bouncy house. Bouncy house fox didn't want popcorn machine. Popcorn machine fox didn't want to ride on the mopeds and so forth and so on. They all had their own thing to do, and they thought that was the best thing to do because they were all trying to answer me. You see where we're going with this. And we're all trying to answer our gods. Now, I have no idea what a VR fox hears when they hear my voice, but they obey. At least one or two hears my voice. I'm talking to them all. I'm talking to, say, 10, 20, 30 foxes, whatever I throw on them out. But only one or two hear me. And they all went off and they all did their own thing. So there were countless ways for them to make me happy. And they all chose some way to make me happy, which was good enough. They weren't all lining up for the Ferris wheel. They weren't all lining up for the bouncy house, but at least one or two foxes doing each thing I provided for them to do. Loki says you figured out our secret. And to me, that's how the gods are. They gave us life. They gave us this planet. And they intentionally didn't give us a guidebook, so we wrote a bunch of them. Because we're smart. And we meant well, and we all try to serve in our own way, and we all think our own way is best. Some of us are Ferris wheel foxes. We'll just ride that thing to the end of eternity and bounce it all over the map very gleefully. Some of us are bouncy house foxes. And some of us are, moped foxes, or canoe foxes, or kayak foxes, or throw snowball foxes. Whatever it is that we like to do, that's what we are. And that's okay. We don't all have to be the same thing, especially as pagans. We can serve uniquely, and we can serve our gods uniquely. You don't have to worry about talking to Jesus or talking to God if that makes you uncomfortable and that's not your life path. That's nothing we're called to do as Lokeans. But for me, since that was a god I was raised with, and I was ready to become a priest for that god, that's a very different dynamic. And since, you start to miss that God intensely, had I not cared, had I walked away not cared, Loki wouldn't have said 2 words. But since I miss that God intensely and I miss the companionship, Loki's like, okay. To this day, I can't tell you if that is the father of Jesus, if that is Loki, or that is Jehovah, or that is whomever. It really doesn't matter. It just matters that is what I called God, this loving, kind, non-judgmental presence that totally gets the worthwhileness of a Fox amusement park and totally loves me even though I went to the zoo and something snapped and I freed all the animals and fed the humans to the tigers. They understand that. They get where I'm coming from. The animals just had a tiny space and the entitled humans were walking around and the animals look sad, so I let them eat the humans. It doesn't happen a lot. I don't like to see animals in cages. And that's who I call God. I can't put a name to that force or that divinity, and I probably really wouldn't want to. Even though I've repeatedly tried, I've realized at the end it's a bit of a grace not to be able to. But I do know that God works in conjunction with Loki, and they have no static with each other. They're not fighting each other. It's not Loki saying him or me. It's nothing like that. Now, we all know I have my suspicions that it's the Allfather. Maybe, maybe not. That's one of the fun things with our gods. Just when you think you have everything figured out, they come up to you and they go, oh, you know all the stuff you had figured out? You're all wrong. Which is why I figured it would be better to try to talk to Jesus, for me personally, or talk to God or the angels or the saints, because I had these very intense relationships even while the pagan gods were calling me and I was doing my very best not to answer. I had these relationships, and do you know something? Every single one of them, every angel, every saint, every god, was telling me it was okay, go off and explore, it's fine, what are you worried about? But that's not what the church says. And I will swear to my dying day, God goes, who's more powerful, God or the church? And I'm like, God? Do I look like I care? Go. Have fun. Go play. Learn something. And I was like, what? So, I had a very different experience of God. The God of the church, strictly, the judgmental God who will send you to hell. I luckily never met that God. Never met that God, never will, because I don't think he exists. Jesus of the Bible, I never met because for one, I don't believe in the Bible. I think it's a collection of semi-inspired writings that were collected over hundreds of years, and of course they conflict because everybody had a personal motive for what they wrote. So of course it's a collection of bughouse crazy. You'd be bughouse crazy too if you try to make a narrative out of a million different little pieces. That's why it doesn't make any sense. It was never meant to. None of this stuff was meant to be read together like a single narrative. It's not God the novel. It's a bunch of different Yeah, that was good. Loki's back here. God the novel. I like that title. It was never meant to be read as one narrative. But people got convinced it was supposed to. No, that's not what it's there for. It's just literally a collection of writings is all it is. And you can bet your bottom dollar people have changed it drastically. Unless you have the TARDIS, there's no way for you to go back in time and find out what it originally said. So, I don't have a problem with, being courteous to Jesus or being courteous to God, even though I realize that puts the wind up many pagans. I don't see them as an enemy because, pagans cheerfully fed Christians to lions. And as I was being brought up Catholic, I was supposed to not like pagans. And I never had a problem with pagans because I thought, well, here we were coming, burning down all their temples, and I already thought that was mean and not nice. And saying they couldn't have their God and they could only have our God. And I didn't think that was fair, so no wonder they fed Christians to lions. I would too. So, we can't hate each other for stuff that happened thousands or even hundreds of years ago, or even this year. If you notice anything, if any of these tragedies in these churches and synagogues, it's instant forgiveness. They forgive these people. So, About high time we put away our battle axes and our swords and start acting like adult pagans and start getting along. In the last video, I put a link to the title, The Christians and the Pagans, and it's about the Christians and the pagans sit down, they have Christmas dinner together, and they get along because nobody's making a federal case out of it. Now, maybe that's a best case scenario, but I listened to that song repeatedly from around Thanksgiving to past Christmas. And I enjoy it because to me, it's perfectly emblematic of where I've come from. I was raised Catholic, but I always had a pagan viewpoint. But as a pagan, I can see the Christian viewpoint, so I get the best of both worlds, hopefully. So if you guys like what you see, like, comment, and subscribe, and, just be good to each other. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.